Welcome to the forging section of the Young Men's Camp activities this year.
First thing, we're starting out here with the forging. We pull it out of the flame when it's got a good temperature, a good yellowy color, good yellowish to orange there. We're going to start with forging the ears. Those are the two sides of the head of our railroad spike. We want to get rid of those, make it the same thickness as the rest of the spike. And forging both sides nice and flat. That's looking really good. The next step we're going to work on is we're coming over to a horn of our anvil. You can also use the edge of your anvil. The railroad spike anvils, railroad track anvils, sorry, will be rounded. Use it kind of how I'm using this one now in order to make the head match the rest of the handle of the railroad spike. Now, that's getting too cold, the red's too cold of a red. You can go back and forge. I cut out heating it up. Going back to the horn, heating it up some more, forging it, trying to make that head the same shape and size. I've got that little hump on the back. We're trying to blend that in with the rest of it without causing it to fold over on itself. If you fold over, if your steel folds over on itself, you'll get a cold shut, starts cracks. We want to avoid those. It's important to forge out and not try and make any folds in your steel. Next up here is we're just trying to finish up getting it all to match, making it the same width and thickness. For this part, you'll probably be working as a team with your whole railroad spike. After we get it forged down, then you can cut in half and forge your individual knives out of it. But doing this step is much easier if you got one person swing the big sledgehammer and make it fast, and the other person holds the metal with the tongs. Now, a little hard to see here, but I am starting to draw out the length of the blade. And so what I'm using is the other side of my hammer that's got the wedge shape on it. That forces the metal in just that direction instead of going in all directions. That draws it out and lengthens it. So I'm not using the flat side, I'm using the pointed side of my hammer. It's called a straight peen, is what I'm currently using here. There's also cross peens that'll spread it in the other direction. Making good progress. Sorry. Now I'm cutting off the excess steel that I don't need. I'm cutting it roughly in half. Now, notice when I'm using the hardy block, I am not cutting all the way through, I'm only cutting most of the way through. So if I cut all the way through, I'm going to hit my hardy tool with my hammerhead and blunt it, and I have to resharpen it. So now that I'm most of the way through, I'm going to grab another pair of tongs, just twist and break off the section I'm going to use. I'm going to put the piece that I'm not using in a safe place, which is going to be right next to the forge. That way nobody accidentally touches it or burns itself. Put it somewhere safe. Y'all will hand that piece off to or back in the forge, and your companion who's helping you will use that piece for their knife, and you'll use the other one for yours. Once we do the hardy tool, we took it out of the anvil. We did not leave it in there, so we don't smack our knuckles on it when we're swinging. See how close my knuckles would get to that hardy tool? I want to make sure that's out before we keep going. Your anvils do not have a hardy hole in them, so you'll come over to the instructor's anvil to use the hardy tool for the cutoff when you're ready for that step. So now I'm forging in my point. See, I'm kind of tilting the piece a little bit and getting it to a bit of a triangle. I flipped over and working on the handle side a little bit. It's got a little wider than I want it to be, so I'm standing it up on end and forging it a little narrower. the handle stays the right size. I'm also drawing it out further, lengthening the piece of steel. I don't need as much thickness. I'm only going for, say, an 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch thick. 1/4 inch is thicker than we need.
It really heats up a lot faster now. You can work pretty quickly with it. But it also cools down faster.
Same process, still just keeping the height from getting too tall and lengthening it out. I'm getting up to probably 6 to 8 inches here pretty soon. That's a pretty good length for a throwing knife. And my thickness is about right too. So I'm flipping it around so I can work on the other side. I think I'm happy with my handle here. Start working on the point, on the blade. Drawing it out a little bit more. Now when I'm using the cross peen to draw it out, or the straight peen, it creates some marks in it, so afterwards I have to go with the flat side of the hammer to remove those marks and make it all flat and even again. Do some thickness one more time again. We're getting pretty close. Just refining that point a little bit, making sure it's comes to the shape I want. Back in the forge. Now I'm coming over to the horn. You could also use the side of your anvil to do this. It'll have a bit of a curve on one side of it. And I'm forging in a choil. That's where your finger goes on the handle, your pointer finger. Helps really isolate the handle versus the blade. And it looks nice. Not a necessary step, but I'm doing it for this one. I didn't do a particularly big choil. I kept it reasonably small.
We got one more step before we're done with. We're gonna stick the knife right up on that edge of the anvil.
This next step I'm doing now is beveling the edge. This involves putting the edge of your knife right up against the edge of the anvil and hammering down at a little bit of an angle so you form the bevel and makes that edge nice and thin. We got to do it on both sides. I've pivoted around a little bit so I could do it on the other side as well. And this time I'm actually tilting up the blade a little bit as well so that what's sitting flat on the anvil is the other bevel that I forged into the other side of the knife. That way I'm not removing one bevel when I'm forging the other and both edges come to meet. You'll also notice what this will do. This kind of curves your blade edge. As you forge that bevel in, it'll make the blade kind of start bending away from it. So if you don't want your knife to have a curve, you need to compensate that before you forge in your bevels. Kind of see how before mine kind of came together like a spear point. Both sides curved evenly towards the tip. Now it's all on one side. I had to do that so that when I forged in my bevels, the back came straight. So there's a little bit of planning ahead you got to do with this as well. Pretty happy now. I'm just doing a lot of straightening, evening it out, making sure it looks good and that nothing's twisted, warped, or bent. So I'm almost to the end of the forging and my heat treating step, so straightening everything out good. This is me just explaining what I just said a little earlier. We're getting ready for our quenching step, sorry. Quenching step, we want to get it a nice yellow color. We can check that we are at a high enough temperature to quench using a magnet. Once the magnet no longer sticks to the steel, it is hot enough to quench. We're going back in the forge. You're going to see it come with that nice yellowy color and go right into the oil. Notice I keep myself at a bit of an angle so that I don't get burned by the flames. My hand and the tongs are also held at an angle to oil. Try not to touch the side of the oil drum with your steel, or you can bend it or damage it. So you want to keep right in the middle and move it around a little bit and cool it off. Hold it until all the bubbles are gone. Then we're going to dip it in the kitty litter just to clean off some of the oil so it's not quite so messy. And that's a finished forged blade. We'll move on to the grinding step.
Okay, we're moving on to our grinding section of this video. I've already set the knife up in the vise. It's pretty cool now. It isn't going to burn us. It's nice and cool. Doing it with a gloved hand to be careful, just in case it is still pretty warm. Grab our angle grinder. Okay, got our angle grinder plugged in. Safety equipment back on. For this one, I'm going to put on a leather apron, the extra shirt. Let's throw a lot of sparks. Don't want to burn holes in my clothes any more than there already are. Eye and ear protection is required for this step. It all adjust the way you like. Anyway, now, we always put our other hand on the handle. We don't take the handles off. This gives us good control. We also keep the guards on. We don't take our guards off. Keeps us from burning. We're using a flap disc. This is a lot safer than using a cutoff wheel for what we're doing here. We don't use cutoff wheels for anything other than cutting things off, but the flap disc is relatively safe for what we're doing today. But angle grinders are very dangerous. Got to be very careful with them. They can also twist out your hand, burn people, lots of stuff. So I'm going to turn it on. And all I'm doing with this, I'm going to grind the bevels in. Now for this one's already been heat treated. If you're doing rough grinding, that doesn't apply for this case. This was already heat treated. I want to make sure I don't overheat my steel, or I'll burn it up and it won't be any good. It'll lose its temperature and won't stay sharp. So I'm going to go carefully. Only doing a little bit at a time. I'm going to go dunk it in the water. Keep it good and cool. That looks pretty good. Okay, that's all the rough sharpening done. Just going to fine sharpen it, and then our throwing knife will be finished. Okay, we're all done. I threw a half decent edge on it so it can be used. We have a functional knife we can use for throwing or carving stuff. If we want to, we could later drill some holes, add some handles, make it all nice for us. But it is a functional knife. You can carve some wood. I carved a little bit of wood there just to test it. It does work. Thanks for watching.